Hi, and welcome to the Ankota Training Academy. Let's get started.
Page. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Starting a Home Care Agency. And we've worked really hard to try to give you all the information that you need. You could find how to get to the site just by scrolling down under the video, and there will be a link, or if you just Google Ultimate Guide to Starting a Home Care Agency, it should be the first item on your Google page after the ads, and you'll get there. So let's just kind of walk you through from top to bottom. So really, the first question that we want to ask is, why should we consider running a home care agency? And as I said, we're really happy that you're here, and you can kind of see why. I mean, here we are in 2020, and this is a graph of Americans who are over 80, and this is a good indication of how many people need home care. Keep in mind that we always talk about the retirement age of 65, okay, but people don't need home care when they're 65. They generally start needing home care when they can't perform what's called activities of daily living on their own. And a good average age for that is around 80. But of course, some people need it when they're a little younger, and other people, don't need any care until they're in their 90s. So that's kind of it. But we do have the baby boomers turning 80, all starting in around 2024. And so really the population of people who are in this main demographic who need home care is going to double, and that's really important. So next thing is, why do people start home care agencies? And we have a bunch of quotes here, and I won't read them all, but a lot of people who start home care have experience with it. They've, cared for a loved one in their own life, or maybe they were a nurse or a caregiver in another capacity, and they really have a passion for this. And one thing that we've seen is people, who really have a passion for home care are going to be more successful than people who are just saying, oh, this is a growing market area. And so that's about it. So you see other quotes here, and I'll let you read them when you get to the guide. But usually a motivation that has to do with a real true love for caring is a strong indicator that you'll be successful in the home care business, because especially as you start up, one of your main jobs is going to be doing the sales. And if you could talk with compassion about why you really love the industry and tell your personal stories, that's really going to help you with sales. So a very important next question is how much does it cost? So if you're going to do non-medical care, and by the way, this site is really focused on what we call non-medical care, which doesn't mean it's not very important care, but a non-medical home care agency is focused on helping people with what's called their activities of daily living. So it is focused on helping them with, dressing, grooming, their hygiene, their nutrition, keeping their house in order. And a great thing about this business, we talk about this below, is that this is a business that goes on essentially for an ongoing basis and for the rest of people's lives and that type of thing. But to start a non-medical home care agency is going to cost somewhere between $40,000 and $80,000. And there are, some people will spend more, some people might be able to spend less. Let's say if they were a caregiver and they brought their own clients and they could jump right in and that sort of thing. But that's kind of the range that you should be thinking about of having in order to get your business off the ground. And I end this section with why shouldn't I start a home care agency? And a few things that you should know is this is not an easy business. It's not a high margin business, although there's a lot of volume need. There's definitely not a a business that is a get rich quick scheme in any way. It's a hard business. And you do need to get a license, so you can't just jump right in. You're going to have to check that on a state-by-state basis. And in the early days, and one thing about home care caregivers is when they get a better job, they're going to quit, and some of them might not even give you notice. So you might be out, providing care in the house, filling in, and there's a lot of paperwork, especially if you're on the Medicaid side. And it's a 24/7 business. So if people need care, you're going to be the one, especially in the early days, who does it. So I spent a real lot of focus on that section, but I think it's an important one. So let's move down. So I already alluded to this, but we are talking about the kind of home care that has these types of names: companion care, homemaker, home health aides, caregiving services, consumer directed services. So this is really, as I said earlier, providing care that helps people with their life. I mean, the goal here is to avoid them being institutionalized in a nursing home, because living at home, they can have higher quality of life and lower cost of care and that type of thing. So if you're on this site and you're actually thinking of starting more of a nursing company, or home infusion, or those types of things, there's a lot of other areas that are part of elderly care, but that's not what's covered in this site. And there's a little infographic here that describes it, that is short and sweet. Okay, so this next section is one of the really big ones as well, but the first thing you have to look at is what it takes to become a home care agency in your state. And in some states it's regulated, in other states it's not, and you have to get a license and you have to wait. And in some states there are moratoriums on giving out licenses. So if you are in certain states and you're trying to get a license, that's something you need to find out right away is, what does it take? How long do you have to wait? How much does it cost for the license, and that type of thing. There's an awesome consultant named Coach Michelle. She has some really good videos on this one. You can click on this one as well. And and in this section, we also talk about what you need to do to really get your organization squared away on the back end. And there's a lot of processes and procedures that you need. And one thing, if I scroll down a bit further, is that there's some great consultants out there who could get you started with a policy and procedure manual for your state, and that'll cost you some amount of money. But if you go and spend the money to get one of those and it's already customized to your state, then that's really going to help you a lot, because it'll give you what the rules and regulations for your state are. Because as you see here, there's a lot of processes that you need to be able to cover. How do we sell, and how do we do billing and payroll, and all these types of things, and how do we deal with disciplinary actions when caregivers are consistently not showing up for work and various things like that. So there's a lot to it. And one thing I'll say, we're going to talk more about consultants later, but is that there's great consultants out there, and they generally know very well the geography that they're in. So Coach Michelle, for example, who I mentioned above, she is actually centered in Atlanta, Georgia. And so if you're starting an agency in Georgia or Florida or one of the Carolinas, she's going to be a great choice. And actually, she's got a big tribe and helps people in a lot of states. But then these consulting resources are actually from Ginny Kenyon, who's a great consultant in the state of Oregon, and she has here policies and procedures manuals for California and Oregon and Washington. And so the point here is that, if you're starting your home care agency in a certain geography, it would be better to get consulting help from somebody who really understands the rules and regulations of your state. Okay, so next thing is, and actually Ankota, the people who made this video, we're a software company, and we provide software that helps you run your home care agency. And so this section is near and dear mostly to our hearts. But really, most home care agencies start with 3 pieces of software. You definitely need a website so people can find you and find out about your services. The second one is you need software to track all of your clients and your caregivers and your schedules and your billing and your payroll, and have tracking when your caregivers clock in and clock out. And that's what Ankota does. And we do provide a very affordable solution, especially made for startups there. And there's some details here. I have some videos which talk about scheduling, and then this piece of having the caregivers clock in and clock out, that's called electronic visit verification. So you can learn more about that. And then the last piece of software that most home care agencies need is some kind of accounting software. And I'd say that most agencies use QuickBooks for their accounting software. So those are really the things you need: a website, the agency management software, and then your accounting software. All right, so this next section is definitely not long enough, because it might be the most important thing that you need to know is how to staff for your agency. So here I've covered a couple high points. Is that, first of all, I'm talking about getting staff before you get customers, because your product is the caregivers. So you have to start recruiting caregivers. So, and you don't have to have them on board and pay them, but you have to have them vetted and ready to go so that when you do get that first client, that second client, that third client, you have caregivers to assign to them, as opposed to saying, okay, great, we're so happy you want to work with us. Now I'm going to start recruiting a caregiver. That'd be a really, bad red flag for customers, and that is a recipe for a big problem. So you want to avoid that. So you have to get the caregivers first. But in general, what your most important people are, as well as your marketer, the person who's out there knocking on doors and kissing babies and really building the relationships. And in a lot of the most successful agencies, that's you. That's the owner, the person who started the agency is the person who's out there who is building those relationships in the community and getting those first clients and getting your name out there. But behind that, you're going to be out there talking to people. You need a really good intake person who is going to answer the phone and and be personable and not sound like they're being interrupted when the phone rings, and just be a great person behind the desk, and help them to figure out what their needs are and get them scheduled for an appointment to learn about their needs and get started up with you. So really, it's about having a cadre of caregivers, a marketer, an intake person, and then a nurse. Now, some states actually require that you have a nurse on staff. Some states actually require that you have a nursing degree in order to open an agency. So that's why that earlier section is most important. But regardless of what state you're in, even though you're providing non-medical care, we always recommend having a nurse on staff that could go out and do the assessments and provide the oversight on the caregiving side. So really, this is how you get started with your staffing. Okay, so now the next thing, of course, is, as I said, you're probably thinking, well, why should I get staff before I get clients? And you really do need staff before you have clients. But let's talk about how to get your agency off to a good start here. First thing you want to do is, and this is, I mentioned that consultant Ginny Kenyon above. This is one of her ideas. She says, shop your competition. Just basically, make some calls into your competitors. Find out how they are. Find out how they are on the phone. See what you like about what they talk about, and find out what they're doing. And maybe if you're coming into this and you have a passion, and your passion is, I have some really great ideas on making sure that I could reduce the chance of an elderly person falling down, or I really, maybe you had somebody in your life who had memory issues like dementia, Alzheimer's, and you have some really great techniques and practices that you want to teach your caregivers about caring for people with memory issues. Find out what the gaps are in your community, and that's a great way to start. And then this next piece kind of goes with that, is like, what is your flavor, right? Most home care agencies are vanilla. Oh yeah, we provide companionship and homemaker care, and we have some memory care and blah blah blah. But if you have something where you could say, hey, we're really especially good at this, then that's going to help you. Then you do need a website, and a lot of people are very happy to help you build a website for thousands of dollars. I don't recommend that. We actually built for our product that's called Ankota Cares, which is our startup software. We built a beautiful website. We'd love for you to click on it and take a look at it for $250. So, so you really need a website, but you don't need to spend, break the bank on it. And then kind of moving down, one great idea, and I'm actually building this video in the times of COVID, shall we say. So having a grand opening could be tricky, but a grand opening is a great idea, and you want to invite people in your community. But the most important people that you want to invite are people who are, maybe in assisted living, and they could refer people to you, or the maybe some of the people in the churches in your community who are providing that pastoral care for people who are sick and things like that. Because if you build relationships with them, that's great. And you also want to use your network. You're probably going to get your first clients from people your church, your friends, and that type of thing. So do that. And then you need to really think about your marketing. We won't go into that. I have a video snippet here of this guy named Steve the Hurricane. He's one of the best guys for home care marketing. He does these boot camps, and he's just an all-around great guy. But one of his techniques is he calls power partners. So as we talked about earlier, that person who sits at the front desk in the assisted living community would really know that, hey, I know that, Mrs. Johnson has not been feeling well, and Mr. Johnson might not be as great, a homemaker as when the two of them are together. So, she could give you those referrals. Why don't you check in on the Johnsons and see if they could use a little bit of help and that sort of thing. So those could become your power partners. And last but not least is discipline. And so this idea also comes from Jeannie Kenyon, who I referred to twice already. And she says, make a plan to be in the community 3 days a week and to make 25 contacts a week. And that's really what it's going to take to start getting a good flow of leads and then clients in for your business. All right, this next section is a fun one, which is all the different sources of income for your home care agency. So there's, essentially some people will pay for home care services out of pocket. Some will have long-term care insurance. But in, a lot of communities, there's Medicaid reimbursement. So care for the poor in your community, basically the Medicaid program would much rather have them in their home and have a caregiver come in for a couple hours a day than to put them in a nursing home. And so one thing real quick is that, Medicaid is the US government insurance, if you will, for the poor, and Medicare is for the elderly. A lot of people here might be both eligible for Medicare and Medicaid, but as far as Medicare is mostly health insurance. So just like, if I'm presuming you're a younger person, if you get sick or if you sprain your ankle, you could get medical care. But if you want to go to the gym, go to a gym or go to yoga or do something for your own wellness, that's not covered by insurance. So if you think about this in the context of elderly care, they're dealing with their hip pain or their ankle pain or their diagnosis or their arthritis. Those are medical things and those are covered by Medicare. But as far as the caregiving, it's mostly not covered by Medicaid. And I say mostly because there's a new way of getting some home care reimbursement as part of what's called Medicare Advantage, and that's just becoming a thing now. So this will, and that's kind of shown here. This Medicare Advantage will become a new source of reimbursement. But the whole idea here is that you have to look at different ways of getting care. There's grant programs, there's county programs, and there's there's just different people and different groups that are looking for care. So be creative and find different sources of funding, and that could work really, really well for you. And Medicaid's a big one. There's a video here that just kind of talks about how Medicaid works and what you need to do, because it's, I would say, harder to be a Medicaid agency for certain reasons, and a lot of those reasons are things we help with in Ankota with our software. But but really, I mean, the important point here is that there are multiple sources of funding and revenue. And one way you could start and grow is, maybe you're the only person who's calling on the Veterans Administration, or, maybe you specialize in long-term care insurance, and those types of things will really help you. Okay, so this next area, I'm going to make a whole video about it, but the question is, should you go for a consultant, a franchise, or do it yourself? And they are, so first of all, I mean, people are successful every day in this agency, having used all of these different approaches. So when I talk about franchises real quick, just think of a McDonald's franchise. If you open a McDonald's, people know what it is. They see it being built. They're like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a McDonald's in our neighborhood. And that's a great thing. And that's what you get from a franchise, is they get you started. They have software for you. They have maybe TV commercials. They'll set up your website and all that type of thing. So franchises are a great way to get a quick start and that sort of thing. The downside of franchises, is, as expressed by some people, is that there's a big usual upfront fee, a long-term commitment, and then there's ongoing fees. So once you really learn the business and you're doing it on your own, we've seen some people, kind of move away from the franchise and do it themselves. And I've mentioned a couple times consultants. So, great thing about consultants is they've been there and done that. They know it before. As I've said, you really want to find a consultant if you're going to work with one who knows your state very well, and they could also get you a quick start. And that would be, generally like a one-time fee. So you're paying them some money for policies and procedures and some guidance and that kind of thing. And so you're learning a lot quickly and getting going quickly, but then you don't have an ongoing financial obligation to them. And then, do it yourself is, figuring out yourself, and most of the things you will be able to figure out yourself. But I guess I'll just be blunt and I'll say if I were starting a home care agency myself today, I would probably get help from a consultant who knows my area. And we've recommended a couple who are very good here. And I think that would be, money well spent to get you off in the right direction and find some of the landmines that you didn't know that were going to be there and know how to work through them. All right, so we're finally to the bottom of the page. This is the last area that we're going to talk about today. The last thing on this ultimate guide to starting a home care agency is some resources who we trust and recommend. So the first is Ankota Cares. This is our software for startups. It starts actually at $59 a month for home care agencies. If you're doing Medicaid, it starts at $99 a month. But compared to the industry, I mean, this is much less expensive than the other software out there, and we're really putting it out there, to make a great deal to get startups off the ground and not have to worry about this piece. And since we generally serve much bigger agencies, as you grow, we'll have all the features that you need. And another one is, and actually when I had that graphic that talked about sources of revenue, that actually came from this company called Home Care Pulse. They have some great resources, and one thing about all of these resources that you see here is that they have great free resources, so you could go to their websites and learn. And then of course they have services as well. So Home Care Pulse has a benchmarking study that you can participate in. You can see the results and learn a lot from that. And then they also have a service for they provide caregiver education, and they have a service for essentially satisfaction surveys where they'll call your customers and measure your satisfaction, measure your customer satisfaction, and that helps you grow as well. I've already mentioned Steve the Hurricane, so he's this is a picture from one of his live seminars of helping agency owners really learn how to, as he says, blow away the competition. And we actually work with Steve on a consulting basis. He's just a great guy, and we highly recommend him. And his boot camps are, I don't know the exact price, but today in COVID, he's doing virtual boot camps for just a couple $100. And then if you go to one of his live boot camps when those restart, those are great as well. And I think they're I don't want to quote the price, but I know they're under $1,000 to attend the workshop for a couple days, and they're very, very good. And people, as you can tell, are very energized. Next one is some of my consultant friends. So Ginny Kenyon is mentioned here. So she's the one in Oregon and would be great for the Northwest. And then on the opposite corner, we have Coach Michelle. One thing about Coach Michelle, she has a treasure trove of videos on YouTube. And if you just go in YouTube and you search for Coach Michelle, she has some fantastic videos that can teach you a lot. And then she also has some very affordable offerings for her consulting services to help your agency get off the ground. And these are two that I know and that I trust. I'm not saying that there aren't other great consultants out there, but these are definitely two. Another one is that there's a guy, he's been in this industry for a long time, named Tim Rowan, and he publishes reports about home care technology. I recommend you subscribe for his free newsletter, and he'll be basically telling you, what people are doing, what the software companies are doing, and that type of thing. And he's a really good resource, and he also has software buyer's guides and things like that, so he can help you. The last one we mentioned, and we do partner with these guys, or we have two more, is Paragon Payment Solutions. So one thing that you'll want to do when you start getting your customers is be great if you could either charge them by a credit card, or even better, if you do what's called a bank transfer. And when it's time for them to pay their bill, you're just able to take it from their bank account. So the credit cards have, and the reason that the bank transfer is so good is because it's like the fee is very, very low, and so you get to keep most of the money for yourself. But we have partnered with these guys called Paragon Payment Solutions, and they help with the credit card processing, and it's integrated with our software. And another one that I mentioned is Care Listings, and Care Listings is a great company to learn about. So they might know about your agency. You could go and see if they've already found you, If not, you could tell them about your agency, and it'll be a place where people can, just one more place where people can Google and find your industry. And they also have a place where caregivers can find jobs and things like that. So the last thing on the site is, just some blog articles that we've done that will talk about a lot of the topics here. And it could be the case that you actually, maybe you Googled, how much does it cost to start a home care agency, and that took you to this site. But there's some other, deeper dive blog articles here. And then, kind of the very last thing here is just a link over to the site for Ankota Cares. And Ankota Cares is our brand where we basically make our very powerful home care agency software available for startups at a very affordable price. And it takes care of, again, your agency management, your client management, caregivers, scheduling, billing, payroll, visit tracking, and all that kind of thing. So that's what things are all about. And at this point, I'm going to stop today's video. Thank you for watching. And just the last point is to find the links for the Ultimate Guide and for Ankota Cares. You could scroll down below, and we'll provide all those links for you. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching this video from Ankota. For further information, scroll down and click on the link in the video description below. Have a great day.